In a moment of silence for those who have gone before us. Are you okay? Is something wrong? Can I help you? My newfound friends, those were the only words I desperately needed to hear the day I found myself standing atop the Golden Gate Bridge walkway. It was a day I believed I was useless. It was a day I felt that I was a burden to everybody who loved me. It was a day that I felt I had no value. On all three of those accounts, my new friends, I was wrong. But I couldn't see it. And on September 25th of the year 2000, at 19 years of age, I found myself on a bus in the very middle seat, in the very back row, ready to take my life. I sat there on that bus and something clicked. I began to cry. Tears began water falling from my eyes, mucus dripping from my nose, a real cry. And I sat there and I started to yell aloud at the voices I was hearing in my head, auditory hallucinations brought on by infant trauma. And I sat there screaming aloud at the voices I was hearing in my head. But I don't want to die. I'm a good person. Why do you hate me so much? What did I ever do to you? And if they weren't before at that very moment, 100 people are looking down the barrel of that bus right at me, but saying nothing. And as I cried those tears and yelled those words, the only human being to react aloud to my visible pain was this guy right here next to me, who said to the fella next to him, while pointing at me with his thumb with a smile on his face, "What the hell's wrong with that kid?" And that, my friends, is what's wrong with some of our society today across the globe. Our ability, not you guys, certainly not you guys. You're here for a great, beautiful cause, and you're working hard for change. But our society is filled with people that see people on the bus in that kind of pain, look to them and say, that's his or her problem, but it ain't mine. I have a formidable belief, my friends, that if we are nothing else on this beautiful planet, we are one thing together. We are our brothers and sisters' keepers. There's no getting away from that. So the next time you see somebody in that kind of pain, walk up to them, put your arm around their shoulder, and you let them know it's okay not to be okay, but I got your back. The bus arrived at the Golden Gate Bridge parking lot. 100 people deboarded right there with their fanny packs from 1985 in the year 2000. They were neon colored. Your parents had them. You wish you did. They got off that bus with foreign accents from all over the world, some from Ireland. And they got off that bus to go on that bridge, the ninth wonder of the world, the Golden Gate Bridge, and create beautiful memories with those cameras that weren't yet phones. And I was the last person on that bus, sitting in the very back row, crying like a child, hoping, wishing, and praying that one person would see my pain and say something. "Hey kid, are you okay? Brother, is something wrong? Pal, can I help you?" But the only person to react aloud to my pain was the bus driver, who looked at me and said, "Come on kid, get off the bus, I gotta go." Not quite what I was looking for. I walked toward him, I looked him in his eyes, he motioned for me to get off the bus. I walked down those 2 steps. They felt like 2,000. I walked across that 2-mile stretch of walkway that is the Golden Gate Bridge, crying like a baby. Bikers, joggers, tourists, runners, police officers searching for suicidal people, they all went by me twice. I stood at that ledge, a 4-foot-nothing rail, leaning over to the looming waters below, crying my eyes out, and that's when it happened. A woman from my left approached me. This woman had blonde curly hair, and she had on those sunglasses. you ladies know you love to wear in the heat that do not fit your face. You look like bugs. Giant human bugs. Or as I like to call them, humugs. Hashtag that nonsense. Anyway, she approached with that smile. I thought, this is it. She is gonna ask me if I'm okay. I don't have to die today. I left it all up to this poor woman who knew nothing of my pain. And that's when she pulled out a digital camera and said, "Will you take my picture?" I had a laugh inside, like, lady, this is terrible timing, but okay. I took her camera. She posed like 5 times, like some kind of model. I handed her the camera back and she walked away. But not 20 yards off the bridge, this woman walked back across the entire 2-mile stretch of walkway. Because that's what people did every day at the 9th wonder of the world, the Golden Gate Bridge. And she walked away, my friends, and I said inside, absolutely nobody cares. And I said aloud, nobody cares. Was that true? No. No, everybody cared. Every member of my family, every one of my friends, my acquaintances would have been there to rip me from that rail to safety because they cared. And so would yours. My brain wasn't allowing me to care because of pain caused by what's standing up here, upstairs. And I can tell you right now, as a person who has been through extreme physical pain in my life, that physical pain never once came remotely close to the enemy I battle within every single day. And she walked away. I said, no one cares. A voice in my head told me what to do, and I leapt over that rail. I was on no cord to be talked back. It was free fall. But let me be very clear. This is not the important part of this conversation. The important part that you must learn is that at the millisecond that my hands left that rail and my legs cleared it, instant regret for my actions and the absolute recognition that I had just made the greatest mistake of my life, and it was too late. For over 2,000 people that have gone off that bridge, it's been far too late. 99% of the people that have jumped have died. 36 individuals in 80 years of that bridge being open have survived that fall. 5 of us have regained full physical mobility to walk and to run. To say I am lucky to be alive is an understatement. I'm lucky to exist. And I fell 220 feet, 25 stories at 75 miles an hour in 4 seconds. I hit that water, I went down 70 feet beneath that water, and I opened my eyes. I'm alive. And I'm drowning. And I didn't want to drown. I didn't want to drown, but I didn't think for 1 second that by jumping into a giant body of water, that could happen. And there it is. That is the nature of suicidality. It is irrational. It is illogical. And we tell ourselves things like we don't deserve to be here, but it's a lie. Depression, disease of the mental kind, and suicidal crisis are the greatest liars we know. You deserve to be here. You have value. You have meaning. You are worth it every single day, but I couldn't see that. I bobbed up and down in the water, and I did the one thing I had control over. I prayed. God, please save me. I don't want to die. I made a mistake. On repeat. A woman driving by in a red car saw me go over the rail. She called her friend. That's important because he happened to be a United States Coast Guard officer manning the very waters of that bridge at that moment. The reason the Coast Guard got to my position in the water before I was set in hypothermia and drowned was because that woman made that phone call. In the water as I flailed to stay afloat. I come back up one more time thinking I can't do this any longer. I'm too tired. It's too painful. I can't stay above water. And that's when it happened. Something very large, very slimy, and very alive began circling beneath me. And I remember thinking to myself, you have got to be kidding me. I didn't die off the Golden Gate Bridge, and a shark is going to eat me? No. I took my right arm and I punched it. It didn't go away. It circled faster and faster beneath me. I wouldn't learn what it was that day, but it only left from beneath me when the Coast Guard boat pulled from behind me. I later learned on a television program promoting a suicide prevention campaign in San Francisco that that creature underneath me was a sea lion, and it was keeping me afloat until the Coast Guard boat arrived behind me. Now, faith or no faith, you can't deny that that was a miracle. The Coast Guard pulled me out of the water. They dragged me onto a flat board. I was sent to the hospital with a broken back. Ladies and gentlemen, I missed severing my spinal cord that day by 2 millimeters. 2 millimeters. I swam. The Coast Guard got me. They pulled me out of the water. They got me to the ambulance. Ambulance got me to the hospital. In the hospital, my father was the first to arrive. Let's talk about Pat Hines for a minute. Patrick Kevin Hines. Pat and Debbie Hines adopted me. They took in 3 kids from 3 separate families into one. We didn't look alike. My brother black, me mixed, my sister white, people confused. Right? And, I mean, listen, we would walk around the streets of San Francisco with my mom, and she's Irish and German, and people would come up to us, women, and they'd circle around us like a lion pride. And they'd look at us and they'd be like, I don't understand what's happening over there. And they'd look at us and they'd say things like, excuse me, how did all of that happen? And that's when my mom would very quickly reply, oh, you know, different fathers. Which was epic only because it was true. Nonetheless, my father arrived first at the hospital. Pat Hines is a pragmatic, pessimistic, stone-faced man. He's a man who's been through a lot in his life. He's a 4th-generation Sunset San Franciscan Irishman. And Patrick Kevin Hines never cried a day in his life that I knew him up until 19 years of age. He walked into my hospital room, took one step in, looked to his left where I lay, broken, battered, mangled, bent, IVs in both arms, tubes coming out of everywhere. I removed my mask and I said, Dad, I'm sorry. He looked down at me and said, no, Kevin, I'm sorry. And waterfalls flew from his eyes. And you guys, that was when I knew. Pat Hines has tear ducts. And he comes to my left side, he puts his hand on my forehead, he says words I'll never forget, Kevin, you are going to be okay, I promise. It was that promise I held on to in that hospital. Went from having pneumonia, nearly dying, to having a 10.5-hour back surgery to replace my back with titanium to be able to stand before you today. All right, and my mother got there second. She's much more of an optimist. I don't know how they ever got along. And Debbie Hines comes into that room smiling from ear to ear, and she says, I guess God wanted you to win an Oscar. I tried to tell her, Mom, I did high school theater, that's not going to happen. But she just recently asked me if she could be my +1. Okay, Mom, whatever. Anyway, she came in there smiling with optimism running through her veins, but my little brother entered the room. He was 13. He leaned in and he was furious. He was enraged. He said, how could you do this to us? We love you. I hate you. And he stormed out. He has no recollection of that, by the way. I have witnesses. Nonetheless, there were different reactions, all to the same tragedy, that I nearly died. I'm lucky to walk this earth every single day, and I appreciate every moment I get to be here. I appreciate every single place I get to go because I didn't build it. I appreciate every single thing I get to do because I otherwise wouldn't have. And you better believe I appreciate to the 10th degree all of you. Surviving wasn't easy. I didn't just go into the hospital and get better and this never happened again. 7 psych ward stays in the next 11 years for suicidal crisis. But here's the thing. After that 3rd psych ward stay, I had an epiphany and a gift. In that 3rd psych ward stay, 3rd involuntary, forced in against my will. The next 4, I walked to my family and friends and said, I need to be in there or I won't be here. In that 3rd psych ward stay, I kind of, finagled my way into volunteering for the psych ward I was staying in, which is highly unethical and probably illegal. I went to my case manager. I said, listen, I'd really like to do something for the hospital. I'm feeling better now. I'm working really hard on my mental health. I'm educating myself about bipolar disorder. I'm eating healthy foods. I'm exercising every day. I'm using your therapies. They're working. How can I help otherwise? and her name was Jenna, my case manager. And she looks at me. She was from Brooklyn, New York. She was a tough lady. She looks at me, and I said, we'd like to volunteer for the psych ward. And she said, what? You want to work for the psych ward you're staying in? No! That's highly unethical and probably illegal. That's not going to happen. And I said, well, can I have a hug? And she said, move. Anyway, she did the greatest thing she could have done for me the very next day. Jenna went on vacation. Yeah. And the new case manager was a certified hippie from 1960 San Francisco. She had seen and done it all, okay? And this lady had frizzy hair out to here, salt and pepper. She wore a lei of flowers around her neck that she made from her garden every morning. A flower in her right ear, and she wore tie-dye shirts every day, which she claimed were different. It was the same damn shirt. And I go to her and I said, I really want to work for the hospital. She said, that sounds like a lovely idea. What can we have you do? And she picks up a green binder amongst 22 other green binders, and she says, I know, you can file these patient binders. Now that's illegal. I filed the paper binders. She said, do it alphabetically and just don't look at the details. So I did it alphabetically, and I didn't look at most of the details. I finished that job. I get the next job. Clean out the giveaway clothes closet. When you leave the hospital, you got something to wear. Perfect. I clean, box, bin, label, everything. We're all wearing hospital gowns and hospital pants. Not Kevin. I come out of the closet with a Ralph Lauren double-breasted polo suit and a $70 flared collar like a gangster on the place. And I walk up to the nurse's station. I grab myself a clipboard, a notebook, and a pen, and I start asking questions. I'm also doing very official documents. Leonardo, the Ninja Turtle, is looking so good. And then, who appears in the hospital but the great, pragmatic, pessimistic, stone-faced Pat Hines? He doesn't see me. He's got no peripheral vision. He says to this poor lady, I'd like to see my son Kevin, please. And she says, mm-hmm. He looks at me, doesn't double take, says, what are you doing? Kevin, what the hell are you doing? And I said, Dad, I work here now. And he said, what? Like Little John the Rapper, look him up, you'll understand. Anyway, so he's freaking out, and that's when I say, that's it! No more Pat Hines. And they removed him, which you don't do. You don't remove Pat Hines. He's a third-degree black belt in judo. But they removed him, he went quietly, he didn't want to cause a scene. The very next day, I'm wearing a pink polo shirt, khaki cargo shorts, and sandals from the giveaway clothes closet, straight out the box. And this is the same time that a young man came in weeks before who had 15 to 22 people coming to visit him every day. He had a plethora of people coming to visit him. Nobody has anybody to visit them in a psych ward, okay? And one day, I get a tap on my left shoulder, and I turned around, and there she was. Her name was Margaret, and I was done. And I said to myself, I'm going to marry her. And I quickly said to myself, do not tell her that yet. It's just a tad bit early. Anyway, she was his vision to be held, and I knew I was done. And she says to me, excuse me, do you work here? Which was a fine question, to which I replied in front of all the nurses who looked at me like, what is this little turd going to say? Oh, I looked at them like, you better be quiet or I'll talk about the binders. And I said, as a matter of fact, miss, I am a volunteer. They couldn't do anything about that. And she said, I'm looking for my cousin. His name is, it was that kid. I walk her to the room. Well, I mean, really, I put my hand on the smaller back and her elbow, and I glided her there, like this. We turned the corner, like that. And I realize now, ladies, that's just creepy. That's just creepy. That's that. I get her to the room. She sees the kid. He sees me. And the problem is, every single day, this kid was catatonic. He couldn't move or talk. He was a great listener. I talked to him all the time. And so, here's the deal. He didn't like me because of all the talking. I woke him from his catatonia. It was so annoying. She comes out and says, why'd you lie to me? I said, I didn't lie to you. I am a volunteer. I happen to also live here. Well, anyway, the kid gets out of the hospital, I get out of the hospital, and I do the first thing after my 30-day probationary period in the halfway home, public housing for the mentally ill. After my 30-day probationary period, I call Margaret. Hi, Margaret, it's Kevin. Kevin Hines from the psych ward. He said, oh, good. Hi, Kevin. Now, truth be told, I had asked her out in the psych ward. Didn't work out. But I call her, I said, I'd like to take you to dinner. And she says to me, oh, Kevin, I don't know. This is, I don't think, and she's very excited. I said, Margaret, listen, I need this. Just give me one date. And she says, okay, Kevin, one date. I can work with that. So I show up at her apartment, but I made a huge mistake. I had a giant ski duffel bag of lots of my things. You understand. And she looks at me, looks at this giant bag and says, what is that? I said, Margaret, it's a funny story. When you leave the halfway home on a Friday, and you go out past 9 p.m., it's 9 is our reservation, you can't come home until Monday. Yeah, and she said, oh, hell no! I said, Margaret, I will take this bag, I'll lay on it as a pillow to go to sleep, and we have to go on this date. I've come all this way. She says, fine, let's go. We go to the restaurant, Cafe Sport, Italian place in San Francisco. You don't order at this restaurant. They look at you, and they judge you, and they order for you. You better not have allergies. And so, they order her a small eggplant parmesan deal, but this guy puts on my side of the table, because he didn't like me, a giant uncracked lobster over a huge bed of spaghetti, a mountain of marinara sauce, and a cracker, a lemon wedge that is oddly cut like on purpose, and a candle with a plate and boiling butter. And I'm thinking, this is going to be a mess. I'll never see her again. So I go and take the cracker, I go for the tail. Crack, marinara sauce all over my only good white shirt. She thinks I'm a slob. I asked her later, that's what she thought. It wasn't like a drop, you guys, that you could make go away. It was like Captain America's shield, okay? It's just not happening. So I said to myself, Kevin, focus, do something classy right now. I don't know what that means, but I took the lemon wedge, but then I made a mistake. I looked Margaret in her almond brown eyes. I started to shake. And I went like that. Just like that, as hard and as fast as I could. My plate's here, her plate's there, I'm over here, I missed it. I watched this stream of lemon juice flies directly into her left eye. She starts crying, mascara is running down her face. She looks at the man, kisses the film, The Crow. And then this older couple decides to get involved. This older couple looks at us and says, Mitzi, you okay? She's fine. Miss, it's a date. It's going south and you're not helping. Margaret, I'm so sorry, I apologize. But then the voice in my head said, Kevin, do something classier right now. So what did I do? I took the same shaky hand and went for the plate of boiling butter. I tipped the plate, watched 2 droplets of boiling butter fly between her chest, under her blouse. It burned her. She really screamed. This lady decides, Miss, do I need to call someone? Who are you going to call, lady? The Ghostbusters are dating. Can you back off? Margaret, I'm so sorry. I apologize, but I am one thing, if nothing else, a gentleman. I grabbed my napkin and I reached over. Yeah, you get the picture. I'm doing this on a first date. She looks down and says, what are you doing? I said, I have no idea what I'm doing. She says, the only 2 words you never want to hear on a first date in the first 10 minutes when you have not eaten your food. Check, please. We're not getting married. We're not going to have the 6 kids, I imagine. 3 girls, 3 boys, I named 2 of them. We're not going to have a dog named Max. He was a sharp man. All the wrinkles look just like my dad. And